I just have a question kind of based on affirmative action. I'm a computer engineer here at UW-Madison. I'm about to graduate. And there's a lot that I've found through research and just general, I guess, my studies. Not only does affirmative action help, minorities, people of color, but also women in general. And there's a lot of facets of engineering, the medical system, and other factors that, because of affirmative action, have helped. I'll just go into something. For example, let's say in the medical field, endometriosis, something like that has not been studied in women due to so little women being in the medical field. Also, for example, cars, the seatbelt is made specifically for the male body. They're only tested with male mannequins, so a lot of women are in risk of dying in car crashes at a higher rate. There's a lot of things that benefit from a diverse group of people, both in engineering and medical fields and education and other facets of the systems. And I was just wondering, without affirmative action, how do you think we can bring these people in to bring a variety of opinions?
Yeah, no, I mean, just have a meritocracy, right? So you have 3 white men around you. You can see 1, 2, 3. So if one supports affirmative, no, it's okay. If one supports affirmative action, right, it would mean that you would be okay turning to those 3 men and saying, I deserve the position more than you based on something that doesn't matter more than something that does matter.
I feel like that's one facet of it that we're not also paying attention to, is that people that are graduating from the same schools. They're graduating with the same degrees.
With lower test scores, though. Much lower. Every study of affirmative action, for example, the Harvard case showed that it was nearly 40% lower test scores for people of color versus their white male counterparts and Asian counterparts.
And so how can, is that why would that happen? Do you think
why?
It's, yeah.
What
causes that? Do you think it's just because people of color are more stupid?
No, of course not.
Right.
I mean, people of color come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds that don't prioritize education.
So how do we fix those socioeconomic statuses?
Right, that's an interesting point. Not should we try to penalize white males that are competent to go run our systems and our institutions. So those are 2 different things. Right. So what we're doing is our institutions are now becoming less excellent. Our country is not working like it used to because we basically told people that are very qualified and very competent that, sorry, we're not going to put a position for you here. For example, the U.S. Secret Service. Let me just give you one example, okay? We can all agree that protecting a president, whether it's Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, is super important, right? But now the Secret Service has said that we want to have 30% of all our agents be women, which, by the way, they have lower fitness criteria. So they have less pull-ups, less push-ups, slower mile time.
That's something that's due to your.
Hold on. Exactly. Yeah. No. But this is affirmative action, right? And so therefore, when
there's fields I don't think that's a good. One second. I just don't think that's a good example because women will never be as strong as men, at least genetically.
So that's an interesting question.
I think it should be something that's more
will women be
ideologically based.
Will women be as good at engineering as men, person for person?
Not necessarily, but...
Okay, well then, how is that different than the Secret Service example?
Well, the problem is that...
Because the male mind is wired different than the female mind. By the way, men will never be as good... Hold on, I'll prove it to you. Men will never be as good at counseling or psychology sessions as women. Men will never be good at nursing or elementary school education as women. We have certain giftings because our brain is wired a certain way. Women are far better gifted at micro topics, so individual connection, empathetic type conversations, healing people that past trauma and wound. Men are much better at macro topics, right? Trying to build a building, put a skyscraper up, trying to talk geopolitics. And I'll prove it to you. When you go and you see 5 women eating lunch, they're probably talking about micro topics, conversations they had, relationships, friendships. Men, they're talking about politics, sports, or the stock market.
That's not necessarily true.
Oh, yes. You guys all agree, right?
I mean, there's a reason.
These are bimodal general truths, right? Of course, there's exceptions, but
it's not a general truth, though. I feel like women have the capability of having political conversations.
Of course they do, but it's not the general wiring or nature of women.
There's no wiring for your brain to like Donald Trump. That's not a real thing. I feel
but wait a second. But do you think that men and women are made different in our brains? In our
certain things, but not necessarily. It doesn't channel you to be a specific thing.
Like what things?
Well, there's specific wirings to produce certain types of hormones, and that's differences that are genetically.
So you don't think that men are more likely to like contact sports, more likely to enjoy football, UFC, hunting?
I think that's because of a societal norm in general. Over a lot of time.
No, come on, you're smarter than that. That's not true.
Well,
hold on. So why is it?
There's women that play football, so you can't just say that.
And there are men that dress in drag, but those are not the general truth of it. So let me just be clear. You think that there's nothing within the female brain in its constitution that makes young ladies more likely...
I mean, being that I'm an engineer, I don't think so. No. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. I mean... I feel like there's...
So you think if you pick a random lady here, that they'd be just as comfortable sitting and watching a 4-hour football game than they were to go get their hair done with their best girlfriend?
Well, I feel like that's kind of diminishing to say, because you're a woman, you will not be able to sit through a 4-hour football field.
Is it diminishing to say a man wouldn't want to go get his hair done? No.
No, I'm sure you get your hair done, right?
Not really. It's 10 minutes in and out, like barbershop.
Okay, but you still do it.
But the point, again, there are certain things that women will take more seriously. For example, women will take a lot longer getting ready for the day than men.
Yeah.
Right? Why?
Because we're held to higher standards to look pretty.
No.
For example, your hair. How short is your hair? Super short. Mine, it's going to take longer to dry.
Do you wear makeup?
Yeah.
Why?
because you want to look pretty and it takes...
Yeah, that's not important to me because I'm a man.
Well, right. But who made you
but
feel
there's
that
something
way?
in your
but you
wiring.
feel comfortable
No,
not
no,
wearing
it's not
makeup
a-
because of a certain reason.
Well, but you wouldn't feel comfortable wearing makeup?
I can not wear makeup.
But why do you do it?
I mean, like right now I'm not wearing like anything really.
No, I know, but that's the point is that at some point you wear makeup because there's something within your wiring that says, I want to be presentable to the world. And that wiring, honestly, is I want to find a mate to have
I mean,
children.
this question was about affirmative action. I think we're
No,
getting
it's not. It's actually really important because I don't think there's any differences between races, but I think that when it comes to affirmative action, we're saying that there are differences.
Right.
That we're trying to say that things that don't matter should matter. So I don't think race matters. Affirmative action says race
What
does
about
matter.
like women also in fields like that? Like what I explained
I think that's even more dangerous, to be honest with you. If like we're going to say that women should be Secret Service agents protecting Trump.
Not Secret Service. I'm talking about medicine, engineering, that type of
Well,
thing.
hold on. Okay, so should we try to have the same amount of female to male OBGYNs?
I think it should
Hold
be
on.
similar to the amount of like
OBGYNs,
like the general population.
So hold on. 85% of all OBGYNs are female.
Yeah.
So now should we have parity so that men...
I have an OBGYN that's a man. That's not a problem.
That's not the point. The point is should we have parity?
I think it should be similar to like whatever the
Got it. Okay, so you're consistent. So women studying in the OBGYN field will be actively discriminated against. So a man can, because we must have parity.
It's not about people in the OBGYN specifically. It's about people in general. Men were, like, for example, women were not able to vote until like less than 100 years ago, basically, right?
What does that have to do with
One
the
second.
field?
So because of that, a lot of the laws, a lot of everything that's set in place was made by men, was excluding women, was creating like reforms and like certain legislations that would specifically, support men rather than women because women don't have that ability.
Or support society. I don't think it was always about
Well,
supporting
for example,
men.
like what about what I brought up, endometriosis, or like the seatbelt accident, like all this stuff is due because we tend to favor men in specific.
But, so I just don't believe that. First of all, because research
I
will go
can
where the money
show
is.
you.
And so if was there money in endometriosis research?
Not much because
Well,
men
that's
don't
why.
care.
So maybe it wasn't sexism. Maybe it was a monetary explanation.
Well, who has the money in a society?
Well, actually, women
usually?
control more money than men in the country.
But women weren't able to have bank accounts until like less than 100 years ago, so they can't really build a generational wealth.
Do you think it's been a better thing with women's liberation in the last 20, 30 years?
Yeah, I would.
Do you think, that's interesting. Do you think women are happier in America today than they were 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Then why are they the most oppressed group in the history of the species? Women are the most miserable they've ever been. Like, why is that?
I don't think that's because we're allowed to have money.
No,
now,
I'm asking the but it's like more liberation, more college degrees, more birth control, less marriage.
I would
less
argue
kids.
otherwise. I don't know where you got that data.
No,
that we're
everybody
more
agrees that
depressed.
women are super miserable. As far as versus 30 years ago.
Well, it could be the fact that because women weren't able to go to a psychologist or like
or maybe it's because they're not doing the one thing that they want to do, which is to get married and have children.
Yeah, she's saying that. No, it's actually opposite. It's saying that women actually. It says women around the world report higher levels of life satisfaction than men, but at the same time report more daily stress.
Yeah,
so we're just held to
type in women antidepressant use 2024. It is the highest it has ever been.
But there's like more layers to it than that. It can't just be that. You have to look at why are women more likely to go and talk to a psychologist. There's the differences in that.
So, but I'm just curious. So, do you think women are generally happier in 2024 than they were in 1964?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
But I just had the question of how would you want to fix that? Just
there's no problem to fix. Pure meritocracy.
No, I'm just saying like how do you bring people with diverse opinions?
Oh yeah, I mean I don't care that much about. I care about excellence.
So like women, like you be
I
studying
don't
into
care
stuff
about
like
putting women in
endometriosis
STEM.
and
I
stuff
care
like
about being
that.
a strong.
No, I'm talking about like being able to like look into those type of things, like endometriosis, like all this stuff. How do we make that safer for other people without bringing people that care about it?
Not that important to me. I want the country we once had, which was the greatest country ever, where we put excellence and we put superior intellect above like sensitive racial politics. Not interesting to me.
Okay.
Because it was a bunch of white men that were like running the country, and all of a sudden we decided.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just
no,
saying
good.
that.
Like, that's fine. I mean, but when we used to have a country that was based on merit, we were more successful, and we were a better run country, and we're objectively not now. We're
I'm just saying that in
we can't
engineering
even
there's
protect
a
the
lot
president
of
from getting shot.
Yeah, there's a lot of parts in engineering that because we don't have a diverse look of opinions, and we are putting certain people into more danger, like women in cars. That's like one example.
Okay, thank you.
That's okay.
All right.